I feel grateful and blessed to be an artist. I think we're all artists, and our lives are simply the canvas. But for me, this is an art within the art. And as I mentioned, I'm not inspired. How could I be? But that's how I feel every week. And every week I feel my video sucks. And to my dismay, most of them are appreciated. And I'm shocked. This week I hope to share something with you that I've wanted to share for a very long time. In some videos I share other people's research with you and build upon it. In this particular case, there is a lot of research to be built upon, but almost nothing said about it. Perhaps 5 hours of silent, mind-blowing pictures of our realm that most people have never seen. I have no idea where this is going to go, but I am actually excited to take a peek, and most importantly, share it with you. Welcome. So this is something by Gary Shunung, and he has a series called The Old Earth Ruins. And here recently in a video I gave a little peek, and originally I saw this man's work on the New Earth channel, and she just shared it as is, and I understand why. In many cases, there are no words to describe what we're seeing. So here we begin. We're not sure how much of the Google Earth is true or not, but most often what is not true is the smudging out of things. If we see something, it's likely that it probably is there, and they just don't know about it or haven't gotten around to smudging it. And is this simply part of the circuit board, similar to what we see out in the deserts of Peru, and even the southwest of North America? Really no exceptions. Showing up a lot better in the desert because of the lack of vegetation. And who is this mysterious man that took all this time to find all these sites and locations? I'm not sure. Perhaps he was on the smudging campaign and just got pissed. I think some of our greatest allies will come from the smudgers, who finally have had enough. And I made a video once where we followed one of these lines out to the Bermuda Triangle, and I proposed we could see the remains of Atlantis. And this is clearly all formed. Nothing natural about this. And frankly, I'm amazed they even let us see it. Oftentimes they smudge and blur out even simple lakes in populated areas to avoid letting us see what's under the surface. And grid after grid, and here we can see a line just seeming like surveying or the original foundation of the realm in which everything was built upon. And perhaps these are the very ley lines or circuitry that flow through everything. And eventually people in the past, more advanced people than ourselves, would come to understand this and build their cathedrals and all monumental buildings on these lines, utilizing this flow of energy, which I believe today has been corrupted and purposefully destroyed. But yet parts of it are clearly still active. And it's enough that he brought us all these anomalies. Here you can clearly see the scrubbing and blurring. And so what's really going on here? What do they not want us to see? Absolutely ridiculous, but he has brought us to this point. And what is this place? Why has he brought us here? A little airport, and perhaps this is a little retreat for the elite? Fascinating, and the coordinates are down here. Approximately 22 south, 152 west, and these look like buildings. And again, not a word is spoken in his videos, just taking you on a mind-blowing tour. And this is very mind-blowing. There's nothing natural seeming about this, and it's heavily blurred, and yet we can still see how anomalous it is. Now he's taking us up to the surface, and we can see these very similar formations. I think that's what he's trying to point out. And I recall such things in northern Arizona up by Flagstaff. Either they would be attributed to volcanism or meteor impact crater. Both lies, I believe. And here he zooms in on this key point, and I would love to ask him questions. I've also seen things in Peru, if I'm not mistaken, certainly in South America, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on what those could be, since we have no other commentary on pretty much everything we're going to be looking at today. What could this be? Super mind-blowing. And all seeming to have the same characteristics. This blowout in the center, and then what looks like a flow that has come out of the center. And in our community, it's not unusual to discuss melted buildings, and that is definitely on the table for me right now. These look like melted buildings, not tree stumps, but melted buildings. And now moving into these water sources, which I think are the byproduct of just being blasted, were these all strategically hit and just looking like wasteland, and yet looking like at one point may have been a pyramid, as seen here. And again, we have the underlying lines everywhere, and super cool, always water and some kind of pyramid. This is very yin-yang. This is exactly yin-yang going on right here with this centerpiece. And again, I'm just watching his video right now. Otherwise, I would zoom into this. And this is very exciting. I honestly didn't know if I would have anything to say about this silent video. Oh, and here again, a similar pattern. A little nub in the center and a kind of yin-yang pattern. And I'm not even sure where we just were. But again, the coordinates are down here. And I have such things all over my desert here in the southwest, and they would tell us that it had to do with lava. Perfect circular lakes. Here a square one. And was this the center of the pyramid? Is the pyramid just gone? Has it turned into lime and blown away into the surrounding landscape? And this is just the core. And sometimes they might tell us that farmers made these to water their cattle, and I'm sure they do use them as such things now, but these are clearly scattered throughout the realm, as this kind man is showing us. Past signs of intelligent design, now in ruins. And look how they put their little clouds here, like they couldn't wait a couple seconds to take a better picture. Really interesting, and I have these all over my area. Random, unknown lakes. And not lakes at all. And again, this is kind of a group effort here, a group study. I absolutely would love to hear what you guys think of all of this. And I hope the coordinates come in good so that you can jump in and continue any research that you see here today. And that just looks like a big blast zone. And I do believe in a cyclical reset. That looks like a blast zone. But I also believe in various attacks, past advanced races fighting and having wars, the worst part of a species. And I think that there were massive giant people, and look at all this intricacy on the right side here. Clearly past mining or farming, and it just amazes me how we see what is going on here. Have they blurred this whole section out? It sure looks like it. But here we go. This is one of his famous pictures. Super cool. And that's just lodged in the side of this massive mountain. Where were we? It looked like Mount Fuji in Japan or something. And you know what? I can show you something like this in the side of one of my mountains. Whatever this is, I have one as well. Is this the remains of the projectile that was used to blast this area? Very exciting. Oh, and here is, well, I think Roger at Mud Fossil University calls this a dragon, and some people have said it's Atlantis, and frankly, I don't know. I think the author of this video is putting it in the same category as whatever else we're looking at today. Wow, that's really cool. Is it the henge? It looks like a henge. I don't know if it's the henge, but pretty stony. And yet, when I see something like this, that could have been metal. And I'm finding more and more metallic stones all throughout my desert. and it's clear that metal from the past has turned to stone. And I think I better start skipping around a little on my own. So here we see a crater, another type of similar crater, and what was all this? Civilization, I believe, rendered to blobs, but yet still seeing an intelligent design through it all. And here on this island, right away we see intelligent design in the center here. And could these be what I often call the plug holes? And these are often turned into fountains, and star forts are built on top of them. Could they be the remains of something much older that is repurposed by other past civilizations? And all of this left over from a very, very early time. Parts of the machine barely understood today, but existing everywhere. And we can see the strange angles even in the vegetation on the far left there, in this remote place. Oh, and here we are in Arizona. What's he going to show us? He's going along the spine, and I'm not sure. Am I missing it? Do we have the same similar characteristics on the tops? We do. We have these circular things on the tops of these, which I've never seen or noticed. What is he trying to tell us? Oh, look at that. It's square up here. Square with a circle on top, proving that this is some sort of a building. And these were like spires. Oh, that was fascinating. And here are a lot of these blast sites. A little town here, a little town on the edge of this blast site. Big hole over here. And we've seen where these blasts come in at an angle, but many of these seem to be very centered, and oftentimes with a flow mark coming off at one point. This one is very interesting. Wow, just unbelievable. Right on the edge of this city. It looks like a past river used to flow around it and now has been altered by this blast. And here it seems as if it flowed out in this direction. And up here again, this yin-yangi pattern. Very interesting, because I used to draw the pattern a lot. Here again we see this pattern. What could this be? And here he zooms in even closer, and we see these very strange patterns almost resembling a maze. And now all of this is just ruins. It looks like they're farming all of this. And here even they're farming in the center, but very fascinating. And I think I'm just going to leave a link to these videos for you all. I'm almost just watching them speechless. And here we definitely see flowing. A blast in the center, even heated with red and flowing outwards, creating a puddle. And this reset must be some of the oldest of civilizations. All of this. Seldom do we look at things that are so unrecognizable, hard to make any sense. And yet I think that's exactly what he is showing us, the silent author of this video, who probably doesn't need to say anything. He's said enough for those with eyes to see, and this clearly seeming like a blast site. And look how fractured the land is out here. Unbelievable. Where is he taking us? A random square. And again, who would have the time to research all of this? Again, I think he may have been in charge of finding all of these, or just a part of some operation, and here he has silently shared it with us. And I'm very grateful, and these are clearly old traces of past civilization. As always, turned into farming and whatnot, but originally sitting on a much older footprint. And this is very advanced. And what a mess. What kind of bubbling hot mess was this? Here we see another giant circle out here, and probably a salty lake as we examined in a past video. Here another circle with many lines or roads coming off of it, and this would have been a racetrack or something to the inheritors. But all of this is in the middle of absolute nowhere, and that's what's beautiful about it. It's completely unexplainable, and nobody even tries to explain it. Most people don't even know it exists. Look at this, a perfect lake, Kingsley Lake, And what was this? I mean, if anything has looked Atlantis-like thus far, and as I've proposed many times, I think that all the roads used to be canals, and these areas were inhabited by people. Of what race or species, I don't know, but this is all super intelligent design, and if there were people around, they would turn this into neighborhoods and make up a story of some planner who created it in the 1800s and died shortly after. But we don't have that here. We don't have any of these BS narratives. We just have the raw facts and evidence left over. And it's absolutely mind-blowing. Look at this. Clearly, leftover past civilization, and a very advanced one. Let's move on. Here we go. What could this have been? This is a video of pure speculation, but not one of the blind laymen, but speculation from our community, who have open eyes. And even for us, this is absolutely mind-blowing. There's nothing to reference. No past people, no past anything. Just very advanced traces of the past, of past wonders. Circles within circles, and clearly everything has just been erased except for this very, very most base footprint. And this is so cool. So alien, even though I don't believe in the idea of alien as they would tell us, but this is kind of freaky. I mean, looking like, I don't even know what. I cannot even put words to all of this. Very sci-fi and very exciting. The mystery, the wonderment. Where are we? And here we find these all over, and again, if there was civilization around, they would turn this into an airport. No-brainer. But out here, there's no need, and we see it as it must have been found at one point in these populated areas that we now exist in. Again, an old airport. And I say airport because that's what we would turn it into. What was it really? I don't know. But there sure are a lot of them in the middle of nowhere. This is mind-blowing. I mean, just absolutely mind-blowing. Forgive me, I took a screenshot there, but wow. Again, airport. This is super cool. I might just put this on a t-shirt. Wow. 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 You know, and what a stupid video this must be. But also absolutely fascinating. And I was going to go through all 4 of his videos, and we're still on the first one. This is so high-tech. And all this time later, so many cataclysms later, and this still exists? We see some mud flow has traveled through parts of the pattern, and yet it remains so clear. What could this have been? And maybe the author of this video wanted to say things, but there was just way too much. Here we go again. What? Screenshot of this. I haven't been completely mind blown in a while. I mean, like completely. Where I feel like I'm just saying stupid things, like a tourist. But these things are very much beyond words and anything that we could make sense of. And it seems like he started off a little easy, and now he's turning up the volume a little bit. Here are more lakes and squares. I think that's it, Phoenix, if I was correct. I'm not sure. But really amazing. You see how the vegetation has to follow this, what I believe still has an energetic signature to it. Hence why the vegetation doesn't just completely grow over these patterns. Actually just accentuating them, if anything. Really, really fascinating. And as if there couldn't be any more, he zooms in and shows us spots within spots. And oftentimes these are water wells, like an acupuncture point. And what is this realm, really? When you start looking at things like this, you really have to ask yourself, what are we on? This is not some blob created from a big bang flying through space. This is all very precise and intelligent and way beyond the makings of the likes of our civilization. And here we have this pattern, one after another, really looking like circuitry. And perhaps the machine requires all of this circuitry. And without the machine functioning properly, this place falls into discord or disharmony. Because none of this is natural, and none of it is just some random fluke. And I would love to hear what anyone has to say, even the naysayers, or those that would stick to the historical narrative. How does this fit in to any of it? Wow, this definitely now seeming like a city, a really cool layout for a city, as if people gave a shit and designed cities intelligently and with purpose, and just the faintest husk remaining. Here we can see sharp corners to the left of this. We're at about 30 degrees north, 32 east, and much intelligent design out here. And he's moving quick. He has a lot to show us in this area. Oh yes, a bunch of these patterns now. And everything just unrecognizable. And it would be fascinating to get some boots on the ground out in some of these locations. Now this clearly looks like a structure right here. Clearly. And I really do think this man was in the know. Again, the same thing. Straight lines surrounded by these circular patterns. And I've been wanting to do this video for years. And I really think that some of the greatest clues can be found in this series that he has left for us. I know I used to spend a lot of time doing the same thing, just combing the deserts and landscape for anomalies. And all the things he has discovered would probably have taken me a lifetime. And therefore there's no point to even noodling around on the Google Earth anymore, but rather exploring these sites in which he's left us coordinates for everything. Again, this same flower-like pattern with a square structure in the center. And it's very difficult to just skim through all of this. I feel I'm not doing it justice. Just thousands of these water deposits found everywhere. Really an amazing, silent education on what came before everything, or at least what's left of it. And here a great example of what the Arch of Triumph would have been built upon, and all the streets connecting like spokes in a wheel. But in this case, in the middle of nowhere, no one harnessing this ancient potential, except for this guy down here. Here again, spokes on a wheel. And this is really fascinating. Even with all the farming, unable to hide the past. But again, most people will never see this. What can be said of this? What were they doing? Like some web? And again, the vegetation does not grow over these lines, implying some kind of technology, leaving an energetic residue behind. And I think we're just all living on top of this. And if there's even a shadow of a doubt, things like this should put it to rest. I mean, nothing natural about this. Here he takes us in to another central point, in this case wells or water deposits around it. And I love this kind of research. This ability that we have now to examine the whole realm, and only then can we try to make some kind of sense of what this place really is. And I love these because they're just in the middle of nowhere. If they were in the cities, they would tell us these are industrial parks, but really seeming like components in a circuit board. And here what looks like ancient dams, and these can be found everywhere, even in my area. And this is just fascinating. Is there a city buried under here? And here's something I often call the raking of the earth. It looks as if everything has been raked and wiped clean. And here he goes into some triangles. Again, ancient triangles, seeming like the center part of the airports that we usually look at. And this is really interesting. We can see the coordinates down there. 13 south, 75 west. And these look like the button roads in Peru. And here just a massive range of these buttons. I'm not sure, like some machine of the past passed through here like it's a track. And this really looks like the remains of a city, melted and buried right around these tracks. And here again, look at this faint footprint of a past civilization, and really seeming as if the mountains were these structures and have just collapsed, just melted into blobs, but yet we still see traces of intelligent design. And there doesn't appear to be any roads out here. This is the middle of nowhere, and I really do think that's what this man is trying to share with us. Nothing is natural, and only in its destroyed and wiped out state, and examined small section at a time, does it appear to be natural. But when looking at it from this perspective, we can see that we're clearly dealing with something else. And this place was completely built out for some purpose and has completely been annihilated. And all we have is these faint remains. And here again, if this was in a populated area, they would turn these into rice fields. But there's nobody around. We continue along this whole ridge, and there's just no end. Here now, he zooms into a pyramid. We see nothing from up here, and then we zoom in a little more, and we actually see a pyramid. And I know there's pyramids and structures that have yet to be explored and excavated. And if the so-called experts get to them first, they will erase them. And this is the kind of things that I'm always looking for in my area. My area looks just like this, a wasteland. And things like this reminding me of Chaco Canyon in New Mexico. And they try to tell us that the Native Americans built it. But again, I think this is something much more ancient and more advanced than the Native Americans, as seen out here. What else could I say? I thank you all for joining me, and do have a blessed day. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And I think I really botched this video. Let me just show you what he ends with here real quick. And so we get into structures like this and like this. And so at the beginning they were more squares with holes in them. And later he gets into, again, the pyramid. Same kind of footprint as everything else that we were seeing. But he really ramps it up and now shows us a modern example of what these could have looked like. And we see here, and what starts looking like Angkor Wat in Cambodia. And here we see again this pattern. And I believe that this is what he was trying to tell us, that these types of mind-blowing structures were actually everywhere. And here is another one, and you see my point, and it's all been wiped out, but some remain, so we have some kind of comparison, and people that were clearly using sacred geometry in the past. It's fascinating.